I've been thinking about the meaning of the word courage lately. The subject of courage has come up in our services. Of course, it's in our mission statement. A friend of mine is of the opinion that we seem to think courage is something that is rare, that a courageous person is someone that clearly stands out in one way or another. A search on the internet led me to Brenee Brown. She says, courage is a heart word. The root of the word courage is cor, the Latin word for heart. In its earliest form, it meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. She goes on to say that speaking from our hearts is what I think as ordinary courage. I asked some of my friends in our congregation to tell a story about courage. The final story is the one that I will relay from the United Nations, the Unitarian Universalist UN office. So our first story is presented by Pamela Lopez.
Good morning. 19 years ago this week, Matthew, Daniel, and I moved to Westlake Village. We had bought our house in July, and I couldn't think of a nicer place for Daniel to go trick-or-treating. But on October 23rd, 2000, as our moving trucks went down the street, we saw that every single house had a Bush for President sign. Oh my God. What have we done? We bought too quickly. We didn't research the neighborhood. We had truly left our comfort zone, where I'd been really quite comfortable to stay. We certainly felt we didn't belong. In my search for community, I joined the Ventura County Arts Council, went to Democratic Club meetings, attended a couple of AAUW meetings, but it wasn't until my mom introduced me to CVUUF that I began to relax and make my life-saving connections. It's also where my courage grew. I have been known to quip that moving to Thousand Oaks drove me to church. And given what was unfolding in the world, I found it none too soon. Christine sent me Brenee Brown's quote, and it inspired me to watch her 90-minute Netflix special on bravery and courage. She defines it as that unstable feeling we get when we step out of our comfort zone or do something that forces us to loosen control. And you measure vulnerability by showing up and being seen when you can't control the outcome. So what does all of this have to do with my Chalice experience? When I was a kid, what I hated most was being mocked and therefore didn't speak out very much. But here, among all of you, I have found my voice. Chalice, and being a Unitarian Universalist, has been my source, my well for courage. It's while we have been here that my leadership has truly developed. I am so grateful for the many opportunities offered here for growth. From challenging the comfort level of Thousand Oaks with a production of vagina monologues, as well as comfortably emoting, "This is how I came to love my vagina" during my monologue, to bringing in national and local thought and change leaders to address other issues of discomfort through our community forums. I have watched our community forum teams over the years stand where they used to tremble and realize they can make a difference. UUs can be counted on to show up. This congregation can be counted on to show up. I get my courage from you, and I share it with you. We traveled to the border for trainings, protested at Tent City in Arizona at 10:30 at night in 100-degree heat while armed protesters watched us. I have joined hundreds as we laid down in the street in Portland for a die-in protest, and have truly examined my privilege when I wasn't particularly concerned about what would happen to me if I were arrested. One of the bonus features of our UU activism is it extends out into the community. We stand up, whether it's for separation of church and state, support of the LGBTQ community, and opposition to book bans at our school board meetings, or making sure our community stays safe for all immigrants, regardless of their status, at city council meetings all over the county. The courage routinely exhibited by a large portion of our membership is fully recognized throughout Ventura County. If you want support or someone to stand for justice, you can count on the UUs. They're even starting to remember the name Chalice. Closer to home than our city council and school board meetings is the courageous ask that Reverend Nika and our ministry teams present to us. Let's challenge our assumptions and truly examine our privilege. How do we behave, or what are we blinded to in the areas of economic or white supremacy? How do we come accountable for that? Especially when we really don't want to. How in our lives can we behave in a manner that is respectful for all, even if we think we have been before and realize there are so many gaps? I'll tell you, that definitely fills Brenee Brown's definition, giving us that unstable feeling as we are stepping out of our comfort zones. I strive to be braver and more courageous. I want to know that in these incredibly challenging times, we come together and stand literally or figuratively taller on a continual basis to be the change we want to see in the world. That here at Chalice, we nurture spiritually courageous people who transform the world through justice, compassion, and bravery.
Thank you, Pamela. Robin Lindsay, I'm asking to come up.
Good morning. Good morning. So when Chris asked me to speak about courage today, I was kind of like, I'm not quite sure. But then I realized I want to tell you my Costco story. So in order to tell you that story, I have to give you some background information, okay? So Tom and I are the very proud parents of Adriana, who's 19, and she is transgender. And this person just walking out the door every day has tremendous courage to just be who she is every single day. When she was first transitioning about 4 years ago, and then when she was about 16, she was attending the high school at Moore Park College. And we were sharing a car, so there were days I'd have to take her and pick her up. And on some of the days that I picked her up, we would go to Costco and see me, right? Do our shopping, and then I'd get in line and send her out to get lunch, and we'd meet in the car, we'd go home and have lunch. So there was one day, she looked really cute that day. She had on a new top, and she was wearing makeup, and as her mom, I could tell she wasn't super comfortable yet. Oh, and I also have to share that when you're the parent of an LGBTQ kid, you wear this all the time, right? Even when you're not wearing it, you're wearing it. So it's always there, right? And I have to be honest and tell you that from the time she announced that she was gender fluid and then transgender, I've been waiting for someone to say something to me about my kid so that I could rip their head off, right? Honestly, I'm being honest here. And I've been pleasantly surprised. So on this day, like I said, she wasn't feeling super comfortable, and I could tell. So we went to Costco, and we're shopping, and I was looking for, I don't know how many of you know, Bob's Big Boy blue cheese dressing. right? Comes in the big jar. It's really best blue cheese dressing. I was looking for it. I found it, and there was a woman standing in front of it. And I said, excuse me, can I get the blue cheese dressing? And she turned and she looked at me, and she looked at Adriana, and she said, oh, sure. And she moved out of the way. I grabbed the dressing, didn't really think anything of it. We get up to the register, and I send Adriana out to get our lunch. And I'm waiting in line, because you know Costco lines. And I feel a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and it's the woman from the blue cheese, right? And she goes, oh, your daughter just left. I really wanted to say something to her. And of course, instantly, Mama Bear is ready to come out. And I said, yeah. And she said, I just wanted to tell her she looked like she didn't feel pretty today. And I just wanted to tell her that I thought she looked beautiful. And I started crying. And I gave this complete stranger a big hug, and I said, thank you. And she said, would you just please let her know for me? I said, yes, I will. So there I am in Costco crying at the register. And I went out and I told Adriana this story, and she started crying. But that ordinary courage of this person that, I could not pick her out in a lineup if I had to. I don't remember what she looked like. But I was so appreciative of someone that I'd never met, who didn't know us, to share that genuine kindness. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. I'd like to invite up Tom Stow.
So, if you didn't already know, now you know some of the roles that I have in this world. I have Robin's husband and Adriana's dad, in addition to one of my, and I have to admit that, yes, when the ladies came home and told me that story, I got all weepy myself. And one of the other roles that I have is Tom the librarian. Okay, so you'll hear more about that in my little spiel here. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to speak with you about the courage it takes in these polarized times just to wear a message t-shirt. That is, any garment with a political or spiritual slogan or graphic, such as this one. Free dad hugs. Okay, confession here. And this is one of those comfort zone type things that Pamela was talking about, and Chris. I'm loath to wear a garment like this unless I know exactly where and with whom I'm going to be, and not in the general public square. There have been times when I've worn a Chalice shirt at a restaurant after church and received cross eyebrows or, that kind of look. Or when I've worn a shirt supporting Dreamer students at Oxnard College, where I work, or perhaps Planned Parenthood, and seen random strangers turn away in disgust, like that. Yeah, that's actually happened. But there have also been many times when I've worn, for example, this fatherly shirt supporting LGBTQ folks and received a warm smile of solidarity, such as at a grocery store. Or when I wore it to Oxnard College, completely unaware that it happened to be on National Coming Out Day. Several students spontaneously hugged me and expressed their joy, a few with tears in their eyes. Not exactly courageous on my part, but spontaneous and real, and courageous on the students' parts, to be sure. The very best experience, though, was while attending last year's first Canal Valley Pride event. There were women standing by the entrance giving out free mom hugs. They were delighted to greet a man conducting a similar ministry. As at the college, young people accosted and hugged me. At this year's CV Pride, one young woman introduced herself as a student to whom I had delivered one of my library research lectures. So, one never knows where such tiny acts of courage might lead. I'm still chicken, I admit. However, I hope that one day besides preaching to the choir, someone who disagrees with my point of view might actually engage me in a real conversation. There is courage in standing up for one's own point of view. The greatest acts of courage occur, though, when it's mutual. And I'll get to practice that again this afternoon when we go to the Chalice booth at the street fair. I have heard on good authority that that 2 booths down from the Chalice booth are the folks who represent, the other side from this. Okay, so anyway, so I may have the opportunity to practice what I preach today. Thank you for your time, and blessed be.
Thank you, Tom. The Unitarian Universalist United Nations Office promotes the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, as reflected in the United Nations Charter. The story I'm going to relay to you is about Bruce Knotts. He is the director of the UUNO. The UN was creating the document outlining equal rights for all individuals in the world. As the work progressed, there was no mention of the LGBTQ population. Bruce began to ask that question: what about the LGBTQ population at every meeting he attended? His actions resulted in the leaders being compelled to respond to his question. The LGBTQ group of people were included in the final document. His seemingly simple act had historic consequences. The UUNO continues to promote human rights and social justice issues at the United Nations. You might have recognized courage in these stories. You most likely know courageous people sitting in this room. If you feel you're still searching for your courage, be kind to yourself and patient. Being here is a good place to start.